As an immigration attorney, I regularly ask colleagues and other immigration attorneys for their advice on specific topics, as we are all just trying to navigate the next 4 years and figure out what the best practices are for ourselves and our clients. In one of these message groups that I'm a part of, I posted something where I was suggesting that I was thinking about sending a client by himself to a USCIS interview. It was a bit of a unique situation, and I wanted to get advice or at least some feedback from other immigration lawyers about what the risks of this particular situation may be. And one of the responses I received was pretty shocking. I'm just gonna read it to you. This is from another attorney in New York who posted, "I don't think there's anything at USCIS that a client should do without an attorney other than biometrics. I say this having professional clients who you would think would be treated appropriately, but that doesn't always happen. Most of the time, these interviews are okay, but some officers shouldn't be working there." So I have a lot of thoughts on whether or not you should hire an attorney to attend your USCIS interviews with you. And by the way, this response that this attorney gave to my post got a bunch of likes from other really well-known and attorneys who I respect, immigration attorneys in New York. So I give this response a lot of weight. My general position for adjustment of status interviews is if you don't have criminal history, if you have a clean case, no immigration fraud, you don't need any waivers for inadmissibility, and you prepare with an attorney, you should be good for the interview. And that will continue to be my position until there's new information or I have an experience where I just think that I need to amend that policy for all future clients. Let me give you an example. So a few weeks ago, I had a marriage-based adjustment of status interview in the middle of New Jersey, actually southern New Jersey. And I prepped the clients for the marriage-based adjustment of status interview. It was a husband and wife. I prepped them for the interview. They were ready to go. They attended the interview, and while they were in the waiting room, they noticed that everyone there had an attorney with them. And so that made them slightly nervous. They were the only ones, my clients, who didn't have an attorney with them, but I had thoroughly prepared them for the interview. They get into the interview, and the immigration officer eventually questions them about their communications back and forth because we had submitted some screenshots of their text messages to each other. And the officer asked if he could see their actual text messages to each other. So he asked one of them to take out their phone and show the text messages. And the officer was pretty upfront about it, and he's scrolling through the text messages, and he finds one text message that he finds questionable. So he asks them about it, and he was unsatisfied with their response. And so he separated them and interviewed them each separately. During the course of the interview, they got 2 or 3 questions wrong about each other, and one of them I think was pretty serious. Anyway, the interview ended, the officer didn't tell them whether they did well or not, and that was a few weeks ago, and we still have not received an I-130 approval notice. I believe this adjustment of status case is gonna get sent for a fraud interview, a second interview. It's called a Stokes interview. And at a Stokes interview, they keep the spouses separated for like 2 hours, and they ask them each 100 to 300 pretty identical questions looking for major inconsistencies between their responses to see if they are actually in a good faith marriage or faking the whole thing for some sort of immigration benefit. After this interview with my clients, I was speaking to them over the phone, getting the play-by-play of everything that happened during the interview. And one of the clients mentioned, every other person there had an attorney. And I had to explain to her that those attorneys could not have changed the outcome during your interview. An attorney, when they attend your adjustment of status interview, they're mostly just sitting in the back of the room taking notes. They don't usually interact with the officer in any material way. If the immigration officer asks you a question, like about your marriage, the attorney can't just jump in and say, like, hey, actually, can you ask a different question or answer the question for you? The attorney just has to sit in the back of the room and let the immigration officer conduct their investigation. So in this particular case, having an attorney there would not have changed the outcome for these clients. Let me give you one more example. And I will admit, there are some instances, very rare in my experience, where having an immigration attorney there will change the outcome. I'll give you an example. I attended an adjustment of status interview a few weeks ago with some clients in Newark, New Jersey, and the immigration officer had an issue with the client's birth certificate. She said this birth certificate doesn't meet the USCIS requirements. And really quickly, I was able to look up the requirements and show her that it did meet the requirements. And she thanked me and said she's gonna ask for some guidance from her department supervisor, but that she'll definitely mention the points I made. And then it ended up being that the birth certificate was fine. And I was right, and there was actually no defect in that birth certificate. It met all of the requirements. It was just kind of confusing, and understandably she was confused because the situation was a little confusing. In that situation, there is a chance, maybe like a 30% chance, that me speaking up avoided a request for evidence. By the way, in that case, we ended up getting a request for evidence anyway because my client's medical examination was deficient. The physician made a mistake. He didn't write the date next to his signature. So we got a request for evidence anyway. But this is an example where it's possible, it's conceivable that an immigration attorney being there might have sped things up or helped avoid a request for evidence in the future. Until I see some sort of pattern of misbehavior or undertrained officers or just like series of issues that justify the cost of bringing an attorney to the interview. Like for me, the cost doesn't outweigh the benefits of bringing an attorney to the interview. 99% of the time, I'm just sitting there doing nothing, taking notes, wasting my client's money, wasting my time, and it's just not worth it. And I've had really good experiences sending my clients in without an attorney when we sufficiently prepare before the interview. The key is preparing before the interview. Having an attorney there isn't gonna fix your lack of preparation. Anyway, guys, this is gonna be my position on this matter until I have information that changes my mind. Right now, in July 2025, my position continues to be that you need to prepare with an attorney before your adjustment of status interviews. Bringing an attorney there is probably a waste of money unless there's something unusual going on, like you have waivers that you need to file, or you entered on like a C1 visa and you need to make arguments to show that you weren't a crew member, or some other unique situation. If it's a run-of-the-mill visa overstay, no criminal history, married a US citizen, has no grounds of inadmissibility, no problems, just a straightforward adjustment of status, my position is that preparing with an attorney and attending the interview without an attorney is sufficient and that your case should be granted. All right, guys, that brings us to the end of today's video. If you need an attorney or are interested in consulting with someone, getting some guidance, feedback, or just wanna bounce some ideas about your plans for immigrating in the future, I'm your guy. My name is Pouyan Darian. I'm an immigration attorney with an office in New York. I practice immigration law nationwide and have clients in all 50 states. If you need any assistance, you can find my information in the video description below, and I'll see you guys next time for another video.